Let's now get you started on that conversation. Remember, we are talking about the state of COVID-19 in the country. That is the situation in terms of infections. Those numbers have been rising in the recent weeks. We've seen the number of deaths from, of course, people suffering from COVID-19 rising in recent weeks. We want to talk about that and how we can all play a role in making sure that we tame the spread of COVID-19 in Kenya, which is currently on its third wave. And we want you to be part of this discussion. We have our question of the day, if we can get that now. And this morning we ask you, with the COVID-19 infection rates rising at an alarming rate, are you still observing COVID-19 protocols? We ask you this morning, with the COVID-19 infection rates rising at an alarming rate, are you still observing the COVID-19 protocols? Be part of the discussion by tweeting us at NTV Kenya, at Victor Kiprop _ using the hashtag #NewNormal. You could also follow the conversation on Facebook and Instagram. Later on, we will try to open up our SMS and call lines just in case you need to ask or direct any question or make a comment regarding the show. And for the moment, let's get you going on that conversation. This morning, I'm joined by Professor Julius Oyugi. He's a virologist in studio. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Victor, for having me in the studio.
Karibu. Joining us virtually, of course, from Siaya County is Mabel Chanzu. She's the Public Health Officer from Siaya County. Welcome to the show, Mabel.
Thank you so much for welcoming me.
Karibu sana, karibu sana. All right. And Prof, let me just start with you. These are the latest numbers from the Ministry of Health. 1,540 people. That's the number of people who have been infected in the last 24 hours, according to MOH. Another 18 people, of course, have died from this virus, especially a month after a time when we actually thought maybe we are beginning to flatten this curve. Just let me just get your reaction to that.
Thank you, Victor. That's a very good question. I think just to say that we are currently in the third wave, and the question is, how did we reach there?
Yeah.
If you look at, from early January to sometimes in February, there have been a number of events that have been happening that are encouraging the spread of COVID-19 in this country. Mm-hmm. Some of these events, we call them super spreader events, like political gatherings, where you find that people go to political rallies, thousands of people gathering close to each other, not wearing masks, staying together for a while. That environment actually encourages the spread of COVID-19. So that is one, political gathering. The other thing was, remember, our schools were opened. And by opening schools, now we have more people interacting, like kids interacting, together in school, interacting with the teachers, interacting with other members of the public through transport and things like that. So opening of schools also open an avenue for the spread of this virus. The other thing is that if you look at the COVID protocols that had been proposed and enforced before, there was a laxity amongst Kenyans that I think most people thought that COVID actually had disappeared by January. If you look at wearing of mask, it was not actually being enforced. If you look around in matatus, people will be in a matatu not wearing masks. Even if they're wearing a mask, some of them would be having a mask on the chin and not covering the mouth. Mm-hmm. The other thing are funeral gatherings. In Kenya, funerals are, a place where people gather and, they stay together for a long time. And that also encouraged, the spread of this virus. So these are some of the events that actually helped in, increasing the number of COVID cases. That is what has now brought us to where we are in terms of the third wave of COVID-19.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is why collectively now we have an average of, I think, 1,000 cases per day over the last 2 weeks.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. At this point, let me just bring in Mabel at this point because she's in the counties. Mabel, the situation we have in Nairobi and what our leaders and other neighboring countries like Machakos and even Kiambu is that most of the hospitals are full with patients, even the ICU and even is it called the HDU? Just talk to us about the situation in Siaya County, if it's anything close to this.
Thank you so much. In Siaya, the situation is not very bad. Our ICU doesn't have many. We only have 10 at present in the ICU, but mostly we are doing home-based isolation in Siaya County.
Okay.
Yeah, so just as Daktari has mentioned, exactly that is what happened. The holiday that we had, so many events, opening of schools, and interacting in funerals, made now the situation start coming up again.
Okay.
So at least, yeah, and the challenges we had, it is only the people are only putting on masks when there is an enforcement officer around them.
Okay.
If there is a police around them, they put it rightly. But when they are on their own, they just put it maybe at the chin and any other position they like. Okay. So that has been a challenge, and that is what has really made it start coming up again.
Okay. But for a disease that we keep talking about personal responsibility or social responsibility in terms of, fighting to make sure that we contain it and talking about how the government cannot do this alone, how much of a concern is it to you when we see people, lowering the guard?
I am so really concerned because COVID-19 doesn't choose. It is a personal responsibility for the public to just do the right thing, to wear masks rightly, to wash their hands, to sanitize, avoid crowding in the same place. Just try and keep that social distance. So it is really worrying because it gets anybody. Anybody can get it. So it is really worrying, and we really need it to put it personally.
Okay. Can we afford to lose any concentration at this point? Mabel?
So what we are doing now at our stage here, we are trying to come back and reinforce the COVID-19 rules. Just try and remind them that this is what you should do when you are in gatherings. This is what you should do when you are in school. So we are reminding them, keep reminding them. So some of them have picked it. Some of them are doing the right thing, but others we keep reminding them.
Okay.
Keep reminding them and enforcing the COVID-19 rules.
Okay. And maybe to you, Prof, then, because as you mentioned, the encouragement came from the fact that these numbers were starting to go down. But at this point, yes, we are excited. The numbers are starting to slow. It's averaging around maybe 80 to 100 cases per day from a high of 1,000 maybe late last year. But even as things start looking good, can we afford to sort of relax, start going to the parties and maybe start cramping up in our matatus?
I think that notion was a very wrong notion, given that COVID-19 was still around. There was no treatment for COVID-19. The vaccines just came the other day, and the only thing that we could do to stop the spread of COVID-19 is to observe COVID-19 protocols. Those numbers were a little bit deceiving for two reasons. I think, number one, our testing capability was not peaking as much. And I think the other thing was that if you ask a lot of people in this country, some people about COVID-19, some of them will tell you that, why are you asking me to wear a mask, and I've not seen anybody who has died of COVID-19. So information was one of the factors that was lacking. And then as our colleague from SEA has said, most people used to think that wearing of mask is a police thing, right? They only wear when they see a police officer. As soon as the police officer is gone, they remove it. Forgetting that COVID-19 is actually a personal thing. When I get infected with COVID-19, I become sick. When I'm taken to the hospital, is it the government who is going to pay for me? Is it the policeman who is going to help me, right? So this was a personal responsibility. But we all knew that this virus was still around, and therefore there was no reason why we could have laxed those COVID-19 protocols at all.
Okay.
Yes.
And speaking about relaxing COVID-19 protocols, we have this story that we prepared for you. And 57 offenders who were arrested for flouting COVID-19 rules in the capital city have been subjected to a week of community service. This is after they were caught breaking COVID-19 containment measures over the weekend. The Nairobi Metropolitan Services NMS, through the Directorate of Enforcement, will oversee them execute community service duties between 8 and 5 p.m. every day at various facilities and streets, including Marikiti and Mudhurwa markets and the Global Cinema roundabout along Nairobi River. The court also ordered that the National Police Service to rearrest and arraign in court those who do not abide by the order. Okay, Prof, let me just get your reaction for that. These are people who, were arrested after 10 p.m.
Yes.
Ideally, the clubs should be closed at 10 p.m., but they closed themselves inside. Mm-hmm. What does this mean when we talk about, when we now have to wait for the government to come and chase us out and forget that this, as you say, is a personal fight?
So Victor, this should be a social responsibility to us Kenyans. The bar owners, they should actually ensure that the bars are closed before 10 o'clock. No one should be inside the bar. As soon as it's approaching 10 o'clock, everybody should leave. I mean, you can't have police officers everywhere in this country. How many bars are there in this country? How many police officers can we send to all these bars? It is not possible for the government to be everywhere, to enforce this COVID-19. So in my thinking, we as Kenyans, we need to take this as a social responsibility, help the government in implementing the COVID-19 protocols. So if somebody is found after 10 drinking alcohol, and that is past curfew time, surely you're an adult, right? You should know that we are trying to fight this scourge, which will not go away until we participate as individuals. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I think it is a social responsibility to all of us.
Okay, and yes. Maybe to Mabel, because she mentioned that in Siaya, the people wait for the police to come and chase them around before they start putting up their masks. Mabel, is this a responsibility that we can afford to leave it on the hands of the government alone?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is, just as I said earlier, it is our own responsibility to ensure that we've protected ourselves from COVID-19. So everybody is supposed to be responsible so that we prevent ourselves from getting it, and also giving it to our friends also. We protect other people that are around us. Okay. Just on the issue.
Mabel, I think Mabel is freezing. But back to you, Prof. As we of course continue this discussion, sometimes it's not just the citizens. Sometimes we talk about what the citizens are doing to, break the, these protocols. But if you meet some of them, they would tell you that during the period in which you and I were wearing our masks and, social distancing in our places of work and in the matatus, our leaders, the politicians, were actually leading us in breaking these rules. They were the ones organizing these super spreader events.
So, Victor, you are very right. In every country, people follow their leaders. If a leader does something, you will see the whole country trying to follow them. And this is true with COVID case in Kenya. As I mentioned previously, one of the super spreader events was political rallies. You go to a political rally, you'd see those politicians actually standing, on top of their vehicles without wearing a mask. This is a leader, right? And if a politician is not wearing a mask and is a leader, what do you expect the people who are following them to do, right? My thought would have been that even though those events were really super spreader events, they could also have actually tried to inbuilt messages around COVID-19 as part of, the messages that they were passing around. But you are right. So our politicians have actually a share to blame on where we are now in this third wave of COVID-19.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Let's talk about this third wave right now, because at some point in December, even when we went for the December holidays, we all thought the numbers would, alarmingly go up, but in some way they managed to stay low. And as I mentioned, between January and February, the number of cases were averaging, I think, between 90 to 120 there. And at that point, positivity rates also way below, I think, the WHO standard, which is 5%. We were around 2.5% there. And we all thought we had flattened this thing.
So what had happened is, remember, before January this year, before the holidays rather of last year, the government had inbuilt, those restrictions, movement or restrictions within this country for certain counties. There was the curfew which was in place. The enforcement that we're talking about was still very much there until December. When they started opening space for hotel industry, right? Mm-hmm. People started gathering. Bars, hotels, matatus, all these things started bringing people together. Now, as people come together, it was giving this virus an opportunity to spread amongst us. And it started spreading slowly, late December, early January, without actually us realizing. And as I mentioned earlier, our testing capability of COVID in this country is still not, up to date. We are picking up, but we were not able to pick these numbers rising much earlier. So I think that by opening up space a little bit for business, it created an opportunity for people to mingle, and that was like the fuel that actually helped in increasing the number of cases of COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So it was building up slowly by allowing more space for people to come together. Mm-hmm. Yes.
But we also have people who say, I'm a bit tired. I've been wearing this mask for a year, Prof.
Yeah, so there's fatigue. Most people feel uncomfortable when they wear a mask. Yeah, right? So that fatigue came into place. And because numbers were going down, people think, so why should I continue wearing a mask?
Mm-hmm.
If sanitize every morning or every building that I get into, I need to sanitize. Now that we have very few cases of COVID-19. And if you observe, previously, before you got into any building, even supermarkets, people had to wash their hands, they had to sanitize, but that actually started disappearing, right? You'll see people walking in a supermarket without sanitizing. They're going to touch, the things in the supermarket, right? Mm-hmm. And those things are touched by everybody, you remember? And the way this virus is transmitted, Victor, other than what we call aerosols, releasing the particles in the air, when those particles are released in the air, they can land on your hand. And when you go and touch something in the supermarket, you leave the virus there. Then somebody come and touch it. So all this opening space business also encouraged, people to actually acquire this virus through various means.
Okay. We'll talk about the difference between the first, the second wave, and the third wave in a short while. But speaking about people, getting tired and being fatigued about following these protocols, my colleague Brian Mushiri made his way into the Central Business District to ask a number of Kenyans what they think about the third wave of the pandemic, the vaccine, and whether they still follow, of course, this protocol set out by the Ministry of Health.
Kenyans, the third wave is here, and the government says it's unrelenting. But so is the COVID-19 vaccine. This morning, your voice makes a return to the Nairobi CBD. I'm here just to get to understand why Kenyans have started to drop their guard. Do we still wash our hands? Do we still sanitize as we board matatus and public spaces? And of course, I have to ask the all-important question. Do you believe in the COVID-19 vaccine?
Mimi vyenye nafikiria kuhusu hii third wave, naona nikaa siri, mimi siamini.
Kwa nini huiamini? Nini nakufanya usiamini?
Juu naona yes wanasema iko, the numbers are high, but mimi sijaona mimi mwenyewe. Sijaona mtu ako nayo.
The vaccine is here. Do you believe in the vaccine?
Siamini hata hiyo. Mimi kitu ya kwanza hata siwezi enda kudungwa hiyo kitu. Juu siamini. Juu how can a vaccine inaweza tolewa within a year? Inawezekanaje? Na kulingana na venye na scientist wanasemaga, a vaccine takes time. ndo ifanyiwe proper test.
Kuhusu hii third wave ya corona, kuongea ukweli, hii kitu inashtua. Inashtua juu, okay, for most of us tulikuwa tunaona ni kama, ni kama ni kastori ka serikali, nini. Lakini sasa tumeanza kushtuka juu, now the numbers are turning into people, at least people sasa tunajua. So to some extent hii inatuweka kauoga fulani, unaona hii kitu ni kama iko.
So far wewe unajua mtu yote ambaye umepoteza, ambaye amefariki kwa sababu ya corona?
Saa hii ndio nina watu wawili ambao ninajua ameaga juu ya corona. Ndio.
Na sasa kwa sababu ya hiyo watu wanazingatia, wewe unazingatia yale ambayo tumeambiwa na Wizara ya Afya, kunawa mikono, sanitize. Are you still doing this?
I'm still doing this, but sometimes back we had started to relax. But now with now what's happening right now, now it's for everyone now to take care of himself. So right now I'm very serious about this.
The vaccine is here. Do you believe in the vaccine?
Well, I have my questions, which I think someone needs to answer me. First of all, we had like HIV, we had like the common colds, and the other diseases that we have, like cancer and the rest. And for decades, they have not managed to give us a jab for those viruses or those sicknesses. And now, just about less than a year, you want to tell me that they have managed to come up with coronavirus. That to me, it's giving me a number of questions. And another thing that is perturbing me, we've had a number of cases related to this jab. That there is things like blood clotting and everything, and yet here we are being told that the jab is very much okay. And what's worrying me is that the most developed countries, they have discontinued this jab, but here we are being told that it's okay. As in, I have a lot of questions and a lot of things that I need to be cleared with in order for me to accept and to take this jab.
The Ministry of Health has been telling us, nawa mikono, sanitize. Do you still do that ama ulifika mahali ukachoka?
Actually, kuna wakati nilichoka kwa sababu unajua there are some things that unajua hizo vitu sometimes unasahau because ufuatilia sana, because it is no new normal by the way. So imekuwa tabu sana, but ninangangana mimi kivyangu, nangangana sana ninawe mkono, ni sanitize and also kuvaa mask na maintain.
For NTV, I'm Brian Mushiri.
A number of Kenyans, of course, giving us their reactions on of course, the COVID-19 vaccine, the COVID-19 situation in the country at the moment, and whether they're still, of course, observing the protocol set out by the Ministry of Health. Prof, let me just get your reaction to some of the comments made by Kenyans in the soundbites we've played.
Yeah, so Victor, number one, okay, there are a few things that I've heard from the Kenyan public about the COVID-19. Number one, most of them don't believe that the third wave is here.
Yeah.
So that is the first thing. The second thing, people also don't believe that the vaccine is working. So if I go back to the belief that the third wave is not here, personally, I think it is lack of information. We are not giving the public enough information about COVID-19.
Okay.
I think people only see COVID-19 when the government has a press conference to give numbers. But I think we need to do more.
In the villages.
In the villages, in public gatherings, in churches,
Okay.
in schools, so that people actually get this message. So that's number one.
Okay.
Number two, about the vaccine, again, it is about educating the public about the fact that the vaccine is here, the vaccine is good. I heard one of the people saying that he doesn't believe in the vaccine because it takes a long time for the vaccine to be developed, right? It is true it takes a long time to develop a vaccine, but during this pandemic, the scientists were able to develop these vaccines within a very short time. And they are actually working.
Okay.
Personally, I was actually vaccinated a week ago at Kenyatta National Hospital.
Very well.
Yes.
We'll come back to that in a bit, but I think we also have a caller who wants to get some information. Wilfred from Mumias. Good morning, Wilfred. Do you have a question or a comment?
Okay. Mimi ni Wilfred Premier Ubulinzi kutoka Mumias.
Yes, Wilfred.
Mimi ningependa kusema hivi.
Yeah.
Ukweli huu ugonjwa uko. Na ugonjwa huu sio mchezo. Mimi nimeonelea kwamba mambo ya COVID-19 imejaa sana. For example, huko kwetu sehemu ya Mumias, yani mambo ya hii kufunika mapua, mdomo, mimi wasioni siku hizi. Sasa ndio sababu sometimes hii COVID-19 inaenea sana. Alafu jambo la pili, mimi nashangaa sana wakati walipoleta hii chanjo. Sasa ndio COVID imeenea ikaenea zaidi kupita kiasi. Unajua kama wangepima hiyo ni waone ya kwamba chanjo hii ya maana ama iko na maana gani.
Okay.
Sababu wakati walipoleta tu chanjo tu sasa angalia imeruka mpaka 1,000 karibu na 500 na.
Okay.
Sasa unajua hiyo ni makosa sana. Wangeangalia kwanza waone ya kwamba wapime hiyo kitu waone ya kwamba je, ni iko sawa ama kuna shida.
Bila shaka. Asante Wilfred, bila shaka tutapata majibu kwa maswali yako. And Prof, even before I come to you, let me just start with Mabel. Mabel, if you're still with us, there's a comment that one of the people we interviewed made about this third wave real. For you as a public health officer who gets to interact with, you said 10 patients maybe in ICU every day, and maybe you even see these numbers going up in recent weeks. How do you feel when you get to hear such statements from Kenyans who should be taking this personal responsibility? Mabel?
Yeah, it is, in fact, let them know that this is real. And I believe each and every person has had a relative or a friend who has suffered this COVID-19. And this third wave is real, and it is a bit complicated than the other waves that we had. So it is very sad to hear such. This is real, and we should just take more care. In fact, more than what we used to do earlier.
Okay. And maybe Prof has raised a very fundamental point about the need for raising awareness. Not because he says it seems people actually just get to know about COVID-19 through the daily briefings, which media houses may carry or may not carry. Talk to us about what you're doing in the counties to ensure that all this information that the public need to know is actually passed out to them.
Yeah, it is. We are doing sensitizations at all levels. We are sensitizing the community at all levels, moving down up to community unit level, so that people can know exactly what to be done. And the myths and misconceptions we are getting about the vaccination, we are trying to demystify. You know, when a vaccine comes, it comes with a lot of those myths and misconceptions. But in our sensitization, that is part of what we are telling them. This is a normal vaccine and it will protect them.
Okay. So
other than the vaccine, we also want them to also do the protocols. Okay. Embrace all the protocols that are there, they have been given.
Okay, thank you. And maybe, Prof, let's just start with the caller from Mumias who spoke about when the vaccine arrived is when the numbers go up. Let's just clarify to him the reasons behind the numbers going up.
I think it was called Wilfred. He actually raised two fundamental issues that I want to address. The first one, he was talking about they no longer see people with COVID presenting with the symptoms that were usually associated with COVID-19. That was, sore throat, fever, and difficulty in breathing. Victor, if you listen to our doctors across the globe and even here in Kenya, they have been reporting that people who are testing COVID positive are now presenting with slightly different symptoms, different from what we used to know, like vomiting, diarrhea, presenting with difficulty with breathing without necessarily having fever. So there is a bit of change in terms of symptoms that these people are presenting with. So,
Okay.
so Wilfred is kind of right about what's happening with COVID-19.
Okay.
So the other thing that he has talked about is, which is not true, is that when the vaccine came, the COVID cases have now shot up. So according to Wilfred, he's thinking that the vaccine is what has actually made the COVID cases to go up. That is not true. The cases started building up, early mid-January. They have been building up slowly. And the vaccine just came when these numbers were rising. So there's no link between the coming of the vaccine and the number of cases which are rising in Kenya.
Okay,
Yes.
and maybe just to talk about the issue of the third wave of this virus then, because fundamentally, is there a difference between how the virus behaved in the first wave and how it is behaving in the second one and even in the third one?
So that's a very good question. So what has been happening with this virus, Victor? The virus has been changing. And that's a very normal thing with viruses. If a virus is allowed to circulate in populations for a long time, they tend to change. As late as last year, we started hearing that now we are having variants of COVID-19. We have the Brazilian, we have the South African, and we have the UK variants. In Kenya, when we are talking about the third wave, how different is it from the first and the second wave? I would think that in this country, we must be having other variants other than the original COVID-19 variant. That is now why we are seeing more cases. And this variant is most likely from the South African variant. It is easily spread amongst people. It also causes severe COVID disease easily. And that may be adding up into the numbers that are building up in this country. We don't know for sure whether it is true that is the case, because we have not actually been testing to confirm that this variant is here. But it is possible that the third wave that we are seeing in this country, part of it is being contributed by the other variants of COVID-19 that are circulating here.
Of course. And of course, that's a very scary factor. Should this inform in any way the way in which we behave?
So because these new variants are easily transmissible, you can easily acquire them. And if you get them, you are likely to develop more severe disease of COVID-19. I think it just tells us that we need to be a little bit more stringent in terms of observing those COVID-19 protocols.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think we also have another caller. That is Fatuma from Kajiado. Fatuma, good morning. Kama unatusikia, unaweza kuuliza swali ama utuambie comment yako kuhusu discussion ya leo.
Okay, nilikuwa nauliza swali.
Yeah.
Kwa mfano, mimi naona kwa runinga tukionyeshwa kuna wale wanaathirika kwa wingi na kuna wale ambaye wanapona kwa wingi. Kwa mfano, mtu akiathirika, ni kitu gani anaweza fanya ndio aweze kupata hiyo nafuu? Kuna wale wako critical kabisa wanapelekwa hospitali, kuna wale hawana symptoms yoyote.
Asante.
Lakini wakienda kupimwa unaambiwa umepatikana uko positive na hauna symptoms yoyote, uko sawa tu kabisa. Okay, mtu kama huyo anaweza kujiweka vipi ndio aweze kuondokea hiyo janga, ama ni nini anaweza fanya?
Asante sana Fatuma, bila shaka tutapata majibu kwa maswali yako hivi punde. But we have another caller from West Pokot. Let's just Ochieng. Good morning, Ochieng. Just shoot your question or comment to our panelists this morning. Ochieng, good morning. If you can hear me, please talk to us. Do you have a comment or a question?
Good morning. I can hear you.
Yes, go on, Ochieng.
I want to say something. One.
Yeah. Ochieng, go on.
Yes, to say something. Number one.
Yeah.
Corona is there. It is there, and people are suffering from it. I have a few close friends.
Yeah.
from this thing.
All right. I think we are struggling to speak to Ochieng from West Pokot. We'll try to get back to him. But, Prof, let me just pick up from where our caller, that is Fatuma from Kajiado, left. And she was trying to find out about the difference in which different people react to this COVID-19. So we have others who, once they get it, they suffer, they end up in the ICU, and they barely survive by the mercy of God. And then we have others who have COVID-19, they test positive, and they're just normal. So I think her question was also how it affects people differently and how those who show no symptoms at all should behave.
Yeah, Victor, that's a very good question. So people should understand when you get infected with COVID-19, there are people who would actually get the virus and they recover without knowing. So there's no symptom. So you'll find that someone has gone for COVID testing, they didn't have a symptom, and then they are told that they are COVID-19 positive. So that's why people are there and they recover. Then there's a bunch of people who develop what we call mild to moderate COVID disease. So these are people who present with fever, sore throat, difficulty in breathing, and the new symptoms that now we are seeing. Again, so these are people who test positive. Majority of these people actually recover. 80% of them recover without going to the hospital, without doing anything. Because I think Fatuma was trying to ask, those who develop symptoms, what do you do for you to recover, right? Currently, there is no particular treatment for COVID-19. There are people who just recover naturally. There's a small group of people who now progress from what we call severe COVID-19 to critical. That is when now you need to be hospitalized. They develop pneumonia and other complications of the lungs.
Okay.
So this individual must be admitted to the hospital, and some of them now require ICU, oxygen, ventilation, kind of therapy.
Okay.
But all these people, there is no treatment. So what we know for sure is that if you are above 58 years of age and you have comorbidities, your chances of developing, severe disease is high compared to younger people.
All right.
That is what we know for COVID-19. And for now, other than the vaccine, there's nothing else that you can do to make you recover.
Okay. I think Ochieng is back with us. Ochieng, good morning. Sorry we lost you a bit there, but if you're back with us, good morning. Do you have a question or a comment?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I have a comment.
Yes.
Or two.
Okay.
Number one, this COVID is there.
Okay.
And the public should be given a little bit more information. I think what the government is doing is more of just giving figures and threats.
Okay.
What the public needs is proper information. The same way we did with HIV, as the information was shared to the public in various fora.
Okay.
So not just statistics being given to us every day.
Okay.
But the disease is there and the public needs to know.
Okay.
I have lost close friends from this thing. Secondly, on the vaccine, I think human beings are just difficult. When Corona came, we were praying for God to do a miracle.
Okay.
And now God has done a miracle. There is a vaccine. We are again questioning how did they produce it very fast. Well, God works through people. God works through human beings. He has given us a vaccine, and we are now questioning. So again, it brings me back to the government. The government should give proper information and allay the fears that some people are having.
Okay. Thank you.
So that people can take this thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheng. And Prof, do you think we're communicating properly? Because it says our communication is about giving scary numbers and threats.
Yeah, so I go back to what I said previously, that the government is not doing enough to inform the public. They hear about third wave. They are wondering what is third wave. You know, what are the implications of this third wave, right? People hear there's a vaccine in this country. There's no information about these vaccines. And most people, when they hear about vaccines, there's usually those people who are against vaccination. They start spreading rumors about safety issues of the vaccine, which may not be true, right? So I think the first thing that
the government should have done was, by the time they were planning to bring this vaccine to this country, they should have educated the public about the benefit of the vaccine, so that, you know, that refusal from people who do not have enough information will actually disappear and the vaccine uptake will increase. If you look at countries like the UK and the US, where they have actually implemented vaccination amongst the population, the COVID cases are going down, meaning that the vaccine is actually working.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And as we close this conversation, let me just, Mabel, as we close this conversation, obviously the challenge to Kenyans and every one of us is to continue, of course, observing these protocols that have been set aside by the Ministry of Health. What are your closing comments with regards to how we move this conversation forward? Mabel?
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much. We are going around sensitizing the community on the third wave. At the same time, the importance of this vaccine. So we are just requesting our public, the public at large, to really adhere to COVID-19 rules.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That has been Mabel Chanzo. She's a public health officer in Siaya County. And of course, Prof, this conversation will never end. But something that is very important and what Mabel has talked about is sensitization. And I think on our own, we need to play a part in sensitizing the people. For anyone who may have forgotten about the protocols, talk to us about those 3 key things that we all need to do on a personal level to protect ourselves from COVID-19.
So I think, Victor, as at now, almost all Kenyans are aware of what they need to do. The issue is, are they doing it, right? The first thing is wearing of masks.
Okay.
And again, if you look around, almost everyone, by the way, is having a mask. But the question is, are they wearing the mask properly, right? You have also seen, if you look around, there are different types of masks. Some of these masks are supposed to be single use. Some people wear them for weeks, right? It could be because of economic issues. Okay. So mask is one of those interventions that can help us reduce cases of COVID-19 in this country. The second thing is social distancing. We know for sure that this virus are spread through droplets. When I'm speaking like now, or when I sneeze, or when I cough, I release those droplets. They cannot travel more than a half a meter, right? So which means if we are a meter away, then even if I release those particles, they will not reach you. So we need to observe those, the social distance. And finally, hand washing and hand sanitizing. As I mentioned earlier, the transmission, you know, if I sneeze and you stand next to me, you can inhale the virus, or those particles can land on your face, and then you get infected. But if I sneeze and the particles fall on a surface and you come and touch, you can actually also take the virus to your mouth, and then you get infected. So hand washing is also one of those interventions that will help us to prevent transmission of COVID-19.
All right, and for purposes of demonstration, for anyone who is watching from home, we will start with social distancing. From where you sit to where I am, does it meet the requirements that we need?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
If I stretch my hand like this, I can't.
Both hands, okay.
Yes.
And for purposes of hand sanitizing, maybe we can just...
so, Victor, can I say something before we go to this? I wanted to say one thing. I know we are finishing.
Yeah.
We are in third wave of COVID-19. Something must be done. And I think there is no shortcut about reducing this third wave.
Yeah.
The government must introduce those restrictions like yesterday. And I would suggest that they start with Nairobi. Nairobi is the place where they have the highest cases of COVID-19. We should close up Nairobi. There should be no entry and no exit in Nairobi.
So a lockdown. A
lockdown. This is what I'm proposing. And once they do that, with the vaccines that they have, they should vaccinate as many people as possible in Nairobi to cut the transmission of this virus.
Okay.
And then they have to implement those COVID protocol, right? Funerals, not more than 100 people. It is they had come up with this, but they never enforced them.
Okay.
So that is what I wanted to say before I go to this.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Let's do the demonstration for the hand sanitization.
So for the hand sanitizer, You take, this is the sanitizer.
Maybe you could put it for me so that we don't touch it together.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you rub. You know, make sure you rub. You make sure you go through your hands like this until it almost dries.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So in this way, if there was a virus on my hand or on this side, I have actually killed the virus.
We could also achieve the same with hand washing, right?
Hand washing also does the same.
How many seconds?
If you use, you must use soap and water. So you know, people wash hands differently.
Yeah.
I've seen people who just go and do that. Like this is not actually hand washing. Get soap. Make sure that the soap is well covering your hands, and have water clearing the soap completely. So once the soap is cleared from your hand, I think you are safe. The virus is cleared.
For the hand sanitizer, there should be some alcohol content.
Yes. So this actually hand sanitizers, they actually have some level of alcohol content.
Which one is effective?
Almost all of them do have alcohol content, by the way. Yeah. So alcohol is an effective, chemical that kills viruses. So they put a percentage. It's about 70%.
That should be effective.
That should be effective.
All right.
Yes.
And as we close, then let's just demonstrate how we should properly wear the mask.
The mask.
Okay.
Yes. So Victor.
Yeah.
When you are wearing the mask, you see the way I'm holding it.
Yeah.
I didn't start by touching the mask.
Okay.
You should not touch the mask. You should grab the mask like this. Put it on your nose.
Yeah.
Put it around your ear.
Yeah.
Like this. So I see people touching the mask. This is not allowed. Okay? The mask must cover my nose. It must cover my mouth.
Okay.
And this is adequate. But because your nose is protruding, if you may need to just press here to make sure that you stop any
Maximize
air
the protection
that is coming from your mouth to outside.
All right.
Or coming through that to your mouth.
Okay.
So this is the best way to wear the mask.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Prof. Just before we end the discussion, let's sample some of the few feedback you've sent us very quickly. We have Nzioka Mwesh Mary says, I do, and I'm always very cautious. That is in regard to the question that we asked you, if you are following the protocols. Moses Makoha said, Corona is real. I'm not certain whether or not there is a genuine vaccine. And then finally, we have Kenny says, most Kenyans are just being ignorant. They are very much aware of the situation. You can't say you are not informed. We can only escalate the measures put in place and enforce them strictly. We fail in enforcement, then lock down the country during the Easter holiday. Thank you, Kenny. And we have Otieno Benson. He says, Corona is here with us, but I don't trust the vaccine, especially in a country where a tender was awarded to a passerby at Kemsa. Thank you very much, Otieno Benson. And that brings us, ladies and gentlemen, to the close of today's conversation. We have been talking about the COVID-19 situation in Kenya and how we can all play our part in making sure that we contain the spread of COVID-19 in Kenya. Many thanks to my guest this morning, Mabel Chanzu. She's a public health officer joining us from Siaya County. And of course, with me in studio, Professor Julius Oyugi. He is a virologist. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because at the other end of this break, we talk about how technology has actually sustained us during this COVID-19 period when everything was disrupted by COVID, and how, of course, it can kickstart the recovery. Don't go anywhere.
From State Farm Arena, the 2021 NBA All-Star Game.
When you're able to represent your team, your family, it's not something that I take for granted at all.
You know, who knows if I'm going to have a chance to play against them again. So enjoy the moment. We're going to try to get a win for sure.
I just love the fact that HBCUs are being highlighted.
Each quarter is like its own game, with $150,000 going to charity and then $300,000 going to the charity of the winning team.
I ain't been this close to this ever. Nice play.
Here's Curry. Oh, beautiful pass. And the Joker with the bucket.
How we loose? Get the legs moving.
2-on-1. LeBron with the reverse.
Here's Curry, 3.
After a year full of uncertainty, Kenya's leaders of tomorrow will soon sit for their KCPE and KCSE national exams. Join the Daily Nation team in wishing our candidates success in the Faulu na Daily Nation campaign. Log on to success.nation.co.ke from your phone and send the candidates details and a heartfelt personalized message for only 299 Kenya shillings, or include a photo of the candidate for only 999 Kenya shillings. The messages of hope will be published in the Daily Nation Junior Sport magazine every Monday and My Network magazine every Friday for the duration of the campaign. Campaign runs from 5th March till 15th April 2021. Tusimame na watoto wa Kenya na Daily Nation.
What would you do if you could do anything?
What are people going to say?
People like me don't win competitions like that.
In those days, parents thought a girl was better off in the kitchen than in the classroom.
I made a promise when Mama was dying.
Even if it means you're gonna get sick.
What choice do I have?
I'm looking for a man who can take responsibility for his actions.
The future belongs to those who build on what's come before.
Nature, man-made art, what a way to appreciate the finer things in life.
That's what brings us here to Nani Kitengela Hot Glass. I am ready to soak up all of the art.
When someone thinks about Kenyan jewelry, what's the first thing you're thinking about?
Masai.
Exactly, that's the first thing everybody thinks about. Yeah. And I want people to get out of that box because we have so much more to offer.
And then we have London Fashion Week.
That's like the biggest thing that has happened to me.
The moment I got to the gate, when I saw two birds, and then I could have sworn I saw a monkey.
So we have too many animals here. Monkey, baboons, lions even. And
lions!
Yeah, at night, many times, yeah.
Out of every 100 shillings Kenya raises in ordinary revenue, 48 shillings are spent in servicing the public sector wage bill. This is in breach of the Public Finance Management Act, which provides that both national and county governments should not spend more than 35% of revenue on personal emoluments. The draft allowances and benefits policy of